If I told you that 1 in 3 adults has a disease they can't feel, can't see, and often don't even know they have, would you believe me? It's silent, it's sneaky, and it might just be the real reason behind that stubborn belly. I'm talking about fatty liver disease. And today we're going to unpack why it's become one of the most underdiagnosed epidemics of our time. And more importantly, how you can reverse it. Now let me start by saying this. People hear fatty liver and they think, well, I don't drink much, so that can't be me. But here's the truth. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, abbreviated NAFLD, is far more common today than alcoholic fatty liver. And the reason has less to do with beer and more to do with what's hiding in your pantry. That fancy sugary coffee shop order, and maybe even the healthy, low-fat foods you thought were helping you. Here's the scary part. Fatty liver rarely causes symptoms until it's advanced. It doesn't usually hurt. Your doctor might only find it by accident on an ultrasound, or because your liver enzymes are creeping up. Meanwhile, inside your body, your liver is quietly filling up with fat, and that extra fat becomes an engine driving insulin resistance, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, and yes, that belly that won't budge. So let's answer the question. Why do people get fatty liver in the first place? One of the big drivers is sugar, especially fructose. When you eat fructose, whether it's from soda, juice, candy, or that so-called natural agave nectar, the liver is the only organ that can metabolize it. Unlike glucose, which your muscles can use, fructose goes straight to the liver where it's turned into fat through a process called de novo lipogenesis. In other words, sugar becomes fat right there in your liver. That's strike one. And I want you to let that sink in because so many of my patients think that when they eat fat, that fat is the primary source of them becoming fat, when it's actually sugar. But it doesn't stop there. High insulin levels from eating refined carbs trap that fat inside your liver. Think of insulin as the bouncer at the club. Once the fat gets in, insulin won't let it leave. Strike two. Then there are seed oils, those cheap industrial oils like soybean, corn, and sunflower. They're high in omega-6 fats, which are easily oxidized. And oxidized fat is like a rusty nail inside your body. It creates inflammation, damages cell membranes, and worsens the toxic environment in your liver. Strike three. And I know there's controversy on whether seed oils are actually harmful, but I always tell my patients, if you have a choice, lean towards the option that is more natural and less processed. Now, here's a lesser known piece. You need choline, a nutrient found in egg yolks, liver, and red meat, to package up fat and ship it out of the liver. If you don't get enough choline, fat just sits there. The irony, for years we were told to avoid egg yolks and liver, the very foods that protect the liver, because of cholesterol fears. That diet advice starved millions of people of choline. And now here we are with an epidemic of fatty liver. And let's not forget alcohol. And let me pause and do a shout out to Jamie Foxx and T-Pain fans who didn't want me to blame it on the alcohol. But here's the truth. Even small amounts, when layered on top of an already stressed insulin-resistant liver, act like fuel on the fire. You don't need to be a heavy drinker for alcohol to accelerate the progression from simple fatty liver to inflammation, fibrosis, and eventually cirrhosis. So why has fatty liver gotten so much worse in recent years? Well, in 2018, a study showed that only 12% of Americans were metabolically healthy. By 2022, that number dropped to about 7%. And when your metabolic health tanks, fatty liver follows. Kids as young as 12 are now being diagnosed with fatty liver, something pediatricians hardly ever saw 30 years ago. That's not bad luck. That's the food environment. We're bathing in liquid calories, processed snacks, and low-fat foods stripped of the very nutrients that protect the liver. Here's another lesser-known connection. Fructose also increases uric acid, the same substance that causes gout. High uric acid doesn't just hurt your joints, it makes you more insulin resistant, which feeds directly into fatty liver. So when you hear someone joke about gout being a rich man's disease, remember, is really a signal of metabolic dysfunction, and the liver is right in the middle of it. Now let's talk about that belly. When you measure waist circumference, we're not just looking at vanity. A large waistline often means fat around the organs, including the liver. Many people think a beer belly is just fat under the skin, but a good chunk of that bulge is visceral fat, deep organ fat. And here's the clinical pearl. When you switch to a low-carb, keto, or even carnivore diet, the very first fat that your body burns isn't from your thighs or your arms. It's from your liver. Within weeks, liver fat shrinks, insulin sensitivity improves, and the domino effect begins. That's why so many patients tell me they feel better before they even see the scale move. Their liver is unclogging. So how do we reverse fatty liver? Let's break it down. First, you're not surprised to hear me carbohydrate restriction. Multiple studies show that within days of cutting carbs, liver fat drops. Why? Because you've turned off the faucet of fructose and excess glucose pouring into the liver. This is why keto, low carb, and even carnivore diets are powerful tools. They give the liver a chance to stop storing and start burning. Second, fasting. When you stop grazing all day, your liver finally gets a break. Fasting triggers autophagy, the body's cellular recycling system, which helps clean out damaged liver cells and reduce inflammation. Third, nutrient density. Animal foods provide not just protein, but choline and carnitine, nutrients that help the liver export fat and improve mitochondrial function. Ruminant meats, eggs, and even organ meats are like targeted therapy for fatty liver. This is why the carnivore crowd often sees improvements in liver markers without counting calories. Fourth, avoid seed oils and ultra-processed foods. Your liver doesn't need more oxidative stress. Swamp them out for what I call bokeh oils: butter, olive oil, coconut oil, and avocado oil. And if you're animal-based like me, use beef tallow and lard and other animal fats. These fats are more stable and less inflammatory. Fifth, hydration and electrolytes. A healthy liver needs proper fluid balance, but don't chug water right before bed. Nobody loses liver fat running back and forth to the bathroom at night. Now here's a fun twist. Coffee. Yes, coffee has been shown to reduce the risk of liver fibrosis. Not the sugar-loaded frappuccino, but plain coffee. The polyphenols and caffeine seem to protect the liver. So if you enjoy coffee, keep it black or with cream, and you might actually be helping your liver. And here's something most people don't realize. Fatty liver isn't just about diabetes and heart disease. It's linked to dementia, colorectal cancer, and even sleep apnea. When your liver is fatty, the entire orchestra of metabolism plays out of tune. Let me share a lesser-known fact about bariatric surgery. One of the reasons it works so quickly for diabetes isn't just the weight loss, it's the rapid drop in liver fat. But here's the catch. You don't need surgery to get that benefit. Any of the low-carb diets can shrink liver fat without a scalpel. So always choose lifestyle before you seek that surgeon. So let's bring it home. Fatty liver isn't just a side note in your health. It's the silent conductor orchestrating insulin resistance, belly fat, and chronic disease. But it's also one of the most reversible conditions we see in medicine. When we change how we eat, when we cut the sugar, the refined carbs, the seed oils, and start nourishing your liver with real food, the very first fat you lose is the fat that matters most. That's why I love sharing this message. Because once people realize that their stubborn belly might not be about vanity, it might be their liver waving a white flag, and they're empowered to take action. Now I want to hear from you. Did you know that 1 in 3 adults is living with fatty liver? Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. And if this video opened your eyes, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. And when you're ready to dig deeper into reversing insulin resistance, healing your metabolism, and protecting your liver, check out the description and the playlist at the end of this video. Check out this video right here on the screen, or just click here to subscribe to my channel. Because the truth is, you don't have to be one of the 3. I'll see you in the next video.